Welcome to this episode. This month, Atanas, Popov and Markos Cantu from Embarcadero join us for a chat, and we get a quick update on how you can get hold of the enterprise connectors that are now part of RAD Studio Enterprise. Just last week, we were in Barcelona for the Embarcadero Worldwide Partner Conference. It was a lot of fun. All the partners came in from all over the globe. We got updates on what was happening with the product, gave a lot of feedback in terms of what we wanted to see in the products, feedback that we'd been given from customers. So it was a really good event. Also happened to coincide with the protests that were sparked by the sentencing of the Catalan political leadership over last year's independence referendum. So that added an interesting twist to our time in Barcelona. But we had a fantastic time anyway. It was a lot of fun. But while I was there, I lined up Atanas Popov, who's the GM of Embarcadero, and also Markos Interview, who you all know, but he's the Director of Product Management at Embarcadero. I lined up both of them for a bit of an interview and a bit of a chat. So that's what we'll see in this episode. So first up, let's hear from Atanas Popov, as I said, the GM of Embarcadero. So Atanas, thanks for your time. We're here in Barcelona for the partner meeting. I was talking to Marco before about the excitement that's been happening outside.
Too much excitement.
A little bit, yes. Just wanted to catch up and ask you, we've seen a bunch of stuff happening with this learndelphi.org, the mascot competition and that sort of thing. Can you fill us in a bit on what the story is there?
Yeah, absolutely. Education has been a big priority for us for quite a while, and we've seen with Community Edition and other efforts a lot more interest in Delphi overall. But we find one problem a little bit is that a lot of our education activities right now are tied into the Embarcadero brand, which is a commercial brand in most cases. And if you go and try to find academics and even the Community Edition itself, the content is really not very well tailored towards early learners. So the idea is to create a portal for early learners that we can really tailor to their needs. So not only speak about the community edition, but how schools can acquire academic editions for the classrooms, for the university setting, give them easy access to a lot of learning resources. There are a lot more books being published for Delphi, yes, which I think people are surprised. But they're
pleasantly surprised.
Pleasantly surprised, but there are a lot of new books on Delphi, and they're not easily available for people that are not experts. We'll put those there. A lot of people are not aware, for example, that you can take the doc wiki that exists for Embarcadero and fairly easily create a textbook out of it. They consider that this content is copyrighted and protected, which it is for certain usage, but we're completely fine for people to take the whole thing down and create their own custom books. Yep. So we'll give a lot of these instructions of how you can basically teach Delphi in a much easier and free way. Okay. So there'll be a lot of videos. We have obviously dozens of MVPs that are very interested specifically to support this initiative, and they are committing to create many how-to and new videos that are, again, more tailored towards early developers versus experienced developers. So the idea is to create a place where they can find all this content, can find a home, and that's the only purpose of it versus a commercial site which is trying to sell.
Sure. But this is kind of cool because for, people in the community and people who are using the products for years have been saying, we need to encourage new developers, we need to have an education story, but it seems like in the last couple of years we're actually seeing some action on it with Community Edition, with the academic programs, and now with this site.
Yeah, for us it's a very important thing because we see a lot of the experienced developers that are out there with even older installations, when they see that there's new momentum and younger people coming to the meetups, that inspires them, and it's really very healthy for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's a huge effort for us, and hopefully we'll be successful in a lot of our Delphi people will support it. Again, it's a lot of the idea is a .org exactly, because it's not necessary. Obviously, we have commercial aims at the end of the day. We want more Delphi developers that use RAD Studio, and that helps us. But there is the part there that we love Delphi and want Delphi to be successful.
Yeah, but those two things aren't in opposition to each other. Yeah, exactly. Like everyone who uses Delphi also ultimately is invested in it to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the idea, and we're very excited about it.
Cool. All right, thank you, Atanas.
Thank you, Malcolm. Cheers, much appreciated. Cheers. As I mentioned, I also lined up Marko Cantu for a chat. It's always great to catch up with Marko. He's been a long time, as you'd all know, he's been a long time member of the Delphi community. So it was great to catch up with him for a chat. He's full of energy and full of excitement and passion for these products, so I always enjoy talking to him. So here's a little snippet of the conversations I had with Marko. All right, so Marko, thanks for having a chat. We're here in Barcelona for the Embarcadero Partner Conference, which has been an eventful couple of days with all of the protests and riot police involved. So that's been kind of memorable. On I think the last episode this month in RAD Studio, I talked about the fact that the Android 64-bit beta is now available, and how people can contact their salesperson to get involved. Anything you'd like to share about how that's progressing? Or
it's progressing nicely. We are almost complete in terms of features in the beta, and then when the product's also good quality, we'll release it. But if you need to support 64-bit on Android in a short term, that the best way is to follow the steps. If you are on a subscription, and ask your sales representative or partner to get an invite to the beta if you haven't applied previously. The idea is that you can also decide to delay the adoption of the beta, because it's possible to ask Google for an extension and still provide 32-bit application updates, not new application updates, through the extension that Google made available to the Delphi and C++ customers.
Okay.
But ultimately, you might want to jump on the beta to start migrating applications to 64-bit, which is generally fairly straightforward, unless you're anything like really low level, really strained by itself. It's a fairly small migration.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the things I asked you about is if you've had any feedback from people about how hard this actually was, how much effort was involved.
No, we haven't had a lot of issues with the code migration. Most of the issues are with project settings, project configuration, the API level, bundling, creating the up bundle, which is something we're currently not supporting. It's coming, creating an up bundle for upload on the Google Store. And also a lot of customers are having trouble because they build 64-bit application, they try to the phone and nothing works. And it turns out a lot of phones have 64-bit CPUs, but 32-bit version of the operating system on them. And so it's easy to get confused. Now, when we get to the point you get the up bundle, the bundle has both versions, so that will always work. And when customers download from the store, they will get the right version for the device, and that's kind of automatic. But yeah, that's been like the biggest source of complaint and confusion. I mean, which version of operating system I have, 64-bit and so forth. Because as you know, on iOS 7 is on the latest version of Android. It's really complicated. Really spread out. Very few people are on Android. Okay. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward migration.
And I think you mentioned this before, but I think that also the license for the beta lets you deploy kind of as soon as you're ready.
Yes, the license for beta lets you deploy on Google Play Store. It actually also lets you deploy for Apple stores, because we are adding specific extensions. Kind of fixing some minor issues, mostly debuggers. It's not affect the application, but for iOS 13 and Catalina. Also, we are surfacing, and Serena Dupont made a blog post about it, we are surfacing the ability to support automatically the dark mode. So on iOS, so when the user switches to dark mode, the application switches to dark mode kind of automatically. Now you can programmatically do it, but it also adapts to the operating system. So
Okay.
If you want to support that feature, you can use the beta to deploy for iOS 13 and again, put apps on the store. It's something we provide as an extension to the standard beta.
Okay. And I think I mentioned this last month, but I think the process is if whoever you bought Delphi or CBuilder from, contact them. And so if that's us in this case, contact us. I'll put the email address up and we can get you up on the beta.
Absolutely. So either if you're buying directly from Embarcadero, contact someone in Embarcadero. If you're buying from a partner, contact the partner. There is an internal process. They need to check that, again, you're active on a deep subscription. Otherwise, we're not granting automatically the beta invite. And then just follows through. You have to accept an NDA, but it's like straightforward standard beta.
The other thing we mentioned last month was about the enterprise connectors rolling into the enterprise SKU of products. But at that stage, there wasn't much information about how people get hold of it.
The process is still a bit in flux. It should be ready in a few days. So basically, when you're buying a new license, in your license confirmation, you get an extra entry that says this is your key for the CData connector. For everyone already a customer and on a day subscription, I think the process is we're going to roll out an email with that information, but we're also trying to make the license available in the license portal. So it might take still a few days to get things up and running and properly working, but the idea is that everyone who is on enterprise and started as well are going to receive a free license for the CData connector at the whatever. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the levels. The pro level.
There's enterprise connectors and there's enterprise connectors plus.
So it will be enterprise, not the plus. The plus, we are stopping selling it. It will be sold by CData directly. So if you want the plus level, that's something you can buy separately from CData.
And the main difference, if you're not aware, is which drivers you get, which applications you get access to. And so if you go to a website, either ours or Embarcadero's, there's a list of all of the applications and which ones are in enterprise connectors and which ones are in plus. So.
Yeah, the total is around almost 100. So it's hard to remember the list, to go to the list. Yeah. But the one that are really enterprise focused, the term makes kind of sense, are on the Enterprise Plus. But everything that's more like social media integration, basic platform integration, basic cloud integration, these are all in the enterprise package, which is again available.
Yeah, we found a lot of the ones that we're using with our customers and also internally are actually in the enterprise, not in the plus. So there's a fair amount of value in that.
Yeah, I'm using a few. I'm using Jira, Twitter, and a few others, which are in that.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you, Marco.
Thanks a lot.
I hope we all get out of Barcelona on time and all our flights leave, but cheers.
Okay, sure. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, mate. So as Marco just mentioned, at the time we recorded that, it wasn't entirely clear how you guys were going to actually get hold of the enterprise connectors in the current release. That's now become clear. Serena DuPont has put a post up. I'll put a link to that in the show notes that shows you how you can go to a website and claim the enterprise connectors license so that you can start using them. I've promised in previous episodes not to carry on about how awesome I think enterprise connectors are, so I'm not going to say that. But I'll put the link to the article and you can go and download them and play with them. One note, if you're on a network license, we're still talking to Embarcadero about how people with network licenses get hold of that. We're also in the same boat. We use network licensing. So if you're on a network license, don't bother about that link. That's not how you get hold of your enterprise connectors. As soon as we've got an answer from Embarcadero on how that's going to happen, we'll post again and let everybody know how to get hold of it. Okay? That's it for another episode of This Month in RAD Studio. As always, really happy to get feedback about the episodes, suggestions on what you'd like to see us cover. If we're missing things that are going on in the RAD Studio world, please let us know and we'll be sure to keep track of those for future episodes. There's links in the show notes to everything that we talked about this episode. Also links to all the usual places that you can follow us and get notified about new episode releases and other videos and posts that we're doing. Okay. Otherwise, have a fantastic month. Look forward to talking to you next month in RAD Studio. Cheers.